Have you ever stood at the threshold of your child's home, heart full of love, only to feel a quiet sting when the door opens? You bring your warmth, your stories, your time, but instead of being welcomed, you're met with distracted glances, half-hearted conversations, or a silence that makes you feel more like a guest than family. It's a pain that cuts deep, not because they're cruel, but because they no longer seem to see you, not the way they once did. After years of raising them, sacrificing for them, loving them through every storm, it's heartbreaking to realize that your presence might not be cherished anymore. As we grow older, we're told family is forever, that our role as parents or grandparents means showing up, no matter what. But what happens when showing up leaves you feeling small, overlooked, or disrespected after 60, 70, or beyond? Your time is too precious to spend where your worth is ignored. This isn't about turning away from love, it's about choosing to protect your dignity, to honor the life you've built, and to seek spaces where your presence is truly valued. In this video, we're diving into a truth many of us face but rarely speak about: why, in old age, you shouldn't keep visiting your kids or anyone if it means sacrificing your self-respect. We'll explore the subtle signs of disrespect, the emotional toll of staying where you're not seen, and the powerful freedom that comes from choosing yourself. Through heartfelt stories and practical wisdom, we'll show you how to set boundaries with love, reclaim your joy, and build a life where you're celebrated, not sidelined. This is about rediscovering your worth and living these years with the respect you deserve. So, join us as we uncover how to step away from pain and step into peace. Before we begin, if you're ready to embrace a life where your heart is honored, tap that subscribe button and join our community. Let's start this journey together. Why you need to set boundaries, even with your own children. There's a sacred bond in being a parent, a love that runs so deep. It shapes your every choice, from sleepless nights to endless sacrifices. You gave your all to raise your children, to guide them, to see them thrive. But as the years pass and you step into your 60s, 70s, or beyond, you might notice a shift. The warmth of those family gatherings feels cooler, the conversation shorter, the connection more like a habit than a heartfelt exchange. You show up, hoping to feel that old closeness, but instead, you're met with indifference, distraction, or a subtle disregard that leaves you questioning your place. It's a pain that's hard to name, because it comes from the people you love most. So, why is it so crucial to set boundaries, even with your own children? Because your worth doesn't diminish with age, and staying where you're disrespected can quietly erode the joy you deserve. Let me share a story about Dorothy, a 72-year-old widow who cherished her weekly visits to her son's home. Every Saturday, she'd arrive with a homemade casserole, ready to spend time with her son, daughter-in-law, and grandchildren. But over time, the visits changed. Her son was often glued to his phone. Her daughter-in-law rushed through conversations, and the kids barely looked up from their screens. Dorothy tried to engage, asking questions, sharing stories, but she felt like an afterthought, sitting quietly while the family moved around her. When she left, her heart ached, not from harsh words, but from the silence of being unseen. "I kept going because they're my family," she said, "but each time I felt smaller, like I didn't matter anymore." Here's why this happens and why boundaries are essential. As children grow into adults, their lives fill with new priorities, careers, partners, their own kids, and sometimes, without meaning to, they take their parents' presence for granted. They may assume you'll always be there, no matter how little effort they give back. This can lead to subtle disrespect, dismissing your feelings, ignoring your contributions, or treating your visits as an obligation rather than a joy. Psychological studies on family dynamics show that unaddressed imbalances in relationships can lead to emotional exhaustion, especially for older adults who may already feel vulnerable to isolation. When you keep showing up where you're not valued, you risk internalizing that neglect, doubting your worth, or letting resentment replace love. The problem runs deeper than hurt feelings. Our culture often teaches us that family ties demand unconditional giving, that as parents we must endure anything to keep the bond alive. But this belief can trap you in a cycle of self-sacrifice, where you shrink your own needs to avoid conflict or guilt. Over time, this erodes your spirit, your health, even your sense of self. You might tell yourself, "They're just busy," or "It's my job to be there." But excusing disrespect doesn't heal the ache, it deepens it. Dorothy noticed her energy fading, her sleep troubled by thoughts of why her visits felt so empty. She wondered if she was asking too much. But the truth was, she was asking for something fundamental to be seen, heard, and respected. The danger of not setting boundaries is that you teach others it's okay to overlook you. By staying silent, you signal that your feelings don't matter, that your presence is optional. But respect isn't guaranteed by blood, it's earned through mutual effort. If your children or anyone consistently show you through their actions that you're not a priority, staying in that space sends a message to them and to yourself. Your worth can be ignored. And at this stage of life, when every day is a gift, you can't afford to let your light dim where it's not cherished. Dorothy's turning point came after a visit where no one even thanked her for the meal she'd spent hours preparing. Heart heavy, she decided to pause her weekly trips. She called her son and said, "I love you, but I need to feel welcome when I visit. Let's find a time that works for all of us." The conversation was hard, but it opened her eyes. She started spending Saturdays on herself gardening, joining a book club where her warmth was met with appreciation. "I didn't stop loving them," she said. "I just started loving myself." 2. This isn't about abandoning your family, it's about honoring your worth. Setting boundaries means choosing where your love can flourish, not where it's taken for granted. If this speaks to you, drop a comment below and let us know, have you ever felt unseen by your family? And keep watching, because we'll share how to recognize disrespect and reclaim your peace with love and strength. How to protect your peace and choose yourself. After years of giving your heart to your family, it can feel like a betrayal to even consider stepping back, especially from your own children. But choosing yourself isn't about abandoning love, it's about reclaiming the respect and joy you deserve. It's about planting your energy in soil that nourishes you, not in places where it withers. If you've ever felt unseen or unvalued during visits, if you've left your children's homes with a heavy heart, this moment is for you. Protecting your peace doesn't mean closing doors. It means opening new ones to a life where your presence is celebrated. So, how do you do it? How do you set boundaries, honor your worth, and choose yourself without guilt? Let's walk through practical, heartfelt steps to help you find that freedom. Let me share a story about James, a 70-year-old grandfather who loved spending Sundays with his daughter's family. He'd bring toys for his grandkids, share stories, and help with chores, hoping to stay close. But over time, he felt like a shadow in their home. His daughter was distracted, her husband barely spoke, and the kids rushed off after brief hellos. James left each visit feeling empty, wondering if he was a burden. He kept going, thinking, this is what family does. But one evening, after another quiet drive home, he realized something: I deserve to feel wanted, not tolerated. That realization changed everything. Here's how you can protect your peace and choose yourself. Starting today. First, recognize the signs of disrespect. These aren't always loud arguments or cruel words. Disrespect can be subtle conversations that feel one-sided, where you're asking all the questions. Visits where you're ignored while others focus on phones or tasks, or a lack of effort, like never being called unless they need something. James noticed his daughter rarely initiated visits or asked about his life. Trust your feelings. If you leave a visit feeling smaller, that's a sign your worth isn't being honored. Second, set gentle but firm boundaries. Boundaries aren't about punishment. They're about creating space for mutual respect. Start small, reduce the frequency of visits if they feel draining. For example, instead of weekly trips, try every other week or suggest shorter meetups at a neutral place, like a cafe, where the dynamic might shift. Be honest but kind. James told his daughter, "I love seeing you, but I feel a bit overlooked during visits. Can we plan a time when we can really connect? If phone calls feel one-sided, let them go to voicemail occasionally, giving yourself permission to respond when you're ready. Boundaries show others how to treat you, and they free you to focus on what lifts you up. Third, invest in your own joy. Redirect the energy you've spent chasing connection into activities that make you feel alive. Join a community group, like a book club or gardening class, where your warmth is welcomed. Explore hobbies you've set aside: painting, walking, writing, or try something new, like a dance class. James started volunteering at a local animal shelter, where his kindness was met with gratitude. These moments remind you that your worth isn't tied to your children's attention. It's in the life you create. Psychological studies on aging show that engaging in meaningful activities boosts mental health and resilience, helping you thrive even when family ties feel strained. Fourth, embrace the power of your absence. Sometimes, stepping back is the loudest message you can send. If your visits aren't valued, pause them for a while. This isn't about cutting ties, but giving your children a chance to notice your absence. James stopped his Sunday visits for a month, focusing on himself. When his daughter called, surprised, he explained calmly, "I needed some time for me." That pause sparked a deeper talk, and while things didn't change overnight, it opened a door to more mutual effort. If they don't notice, that truth, though painful, sets you free to stop chasing what isn't there. Finally, release the guilt and affirm your worth. It's natural to worry. Am I being selfish? Or what if they need me? But choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. You've given decades to your family. Now it's your turn to live fully. Remind yourself daily, I am enough. My presence is a gift, and I choose to share it where it's valued. Write it down. Say it aloud. Let it sink in. Your worth isn't defined by how much you endure, but by how much you honor yourself. As an ancient proverb says, you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Your peace is sacred, and it starts with you. James's journey wasn't easy, but it was transformative. By setting boundaries, he found joy in new friendships and rediscovered his love for photography. His relationship with his daughter improved, not because he forced it, but because he showed her his worth by valuing himself. "I'm still their dad," he said, "but now I'm also me, and that feels like freedom." Protecting your peace means choosing where your love grows best. It's not about losing family, it's about finding yourself. If this resonates, drop a comment below. What's one step you'll take to choose yourself? And keep watching, because we'll share how to navigate the emotions of stepping back and build a life where you're truly seen. Navigating the emotions of stepping back. Stepping back from your children or any loved one when you feel disrespected is a courageous choice, but it's not an easy one. The moment you decide to pause those visits or set a boundary, a tide of emotions can rise: guilt for pulling away, sadness for what's changed, fear of being alone, or even a quiet hope that things might get better. These feelings are real and they're heavy because they come from a lifetime of love. But navigating them doesn't mean ignoring the ache. It means holding it with compassion, understanding it, and letting it guide you toward a peace that's stronger than pain. So, how do you walk through these emotions without losing your way? Let's explore how to honor your heart while choosing your worth. Let me share a story about Margaret, a 69-year-old retiree who decided to stop her frequent visits to her son's home after feeling overlooked. For years, she'd driven an hour each weekend to spend time with her son, his wife, and their kids, bringing baked goods and her warm smile. But the visits grew hollow. Her son was often distracted, and the family seemed to tolerate her presence rather than cherish it. When Margaret chose to pause her trips, she felt a mix of relief and sorrow. Guilt gnawed at her. Am I abandoning them? Loneliness crept in on those quiet weekends, and she wondered if she'd made a mistake. But by facing those emotions, she found a path to healing. It hurt at first, she said, but I learned to listen to my heart, and it led me back to myself. Here's how you can navigate the emotions of stepping back, starting now. First, acknowledge your feelings without judgment. It's normal to feel guilty for prioritizing yourself, especially as a parent taught to put family first. Sadness is natural when a relationship changes, and fear of isolation can feel overwhelming. Write down what you're feeling in a journal, or speak it aloud to yourself. I feel guilty, but I know I deserve respect. Naming your emotions, as psychological studies on emotional regulation suggest, reduces their intensity and helps you process them. Margaret journaled nightly, pouring out her guilt and grief, and found it eased the weight on her heart. Second, reframe guilt as a sign of love. Guilt often comes from caring deeply, but it doesn't mean you're wrong to set boundaries. Instead of seeing it as a signal to return to old patterns, view it as proof of your devotion and a reminder to extend that devotion to yourself. Ask, if I wouldn't let my child stay where they're disrespected, why should I? Margaret reminded herself that stepping back wasn't rejecting her son, it was loving him enough to demand mutual respect. This shift in perspective, supported by self-compassion research, helps transform guilt into empowerment. Third, fill the void with meaningful connections. Stepping back can leave empty spaces, quieter weekends, fewer calls, but those spaces are opportunities to build a life that lights you up. Reach out to friends who value you. Join community activities like a walking group or art class, or volunteer where your presence is appreciated. Margaret joined a local knitting circle where her stories and laughter were welcomed. These connections, as studies on social support show, boost emotional resilience and remind you that you're not alone. If family ties feel strained, new relationships can become a source of joy and belonging. Fourth, embrace the discomfort of change. Stepping back feels unnatural at first, like letting go of a lifeline. You might worry, what if they never reach out? Or what if I'm forgotten? Lean into that discomfort. It's a sign you're growing. Practice small acts of self-care to ground yourself: a morning walk, a favorite book, or a warm cup of tea. Margaret started meditating for 5 minutes daily, focusing on her breath to calm her fears. Over time, the discomfort faded and she felt stronger in her choice. Change is hard, but it's also where healing begins. Finally, trust the truth your absence reveals. Your decision to step back is a mirror, reflecting how much your presence matters. If your children notice and reach out, it opens a chance for honest conversation. If they don't, that silence, though painful, confirms your right to protect your peace. Margaret's son eventually called, asking why she hadn't visited. She shared her feelings calmly, and it led to a deeper understanding. But even if he hadn't, she knew her worth wasn't tied to his response. As an ancient saying goes, your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see it. Trust that by choosing yourself, you're creating space for relationships that honor you. Navigating these emotions isn't about erasing the pain, it's about transforming it into strength. Margaret found that by facing her feelings, she not only reclaimed her peace, but also rediscovered her spark. "I'm still a mom," she said, "but I'm also a woman who deserves to be seen. Your heart deserves that, too." If this speaks to you, drop a comment below what emotion is hardest for you when setting boundaries, and keep watching, because we'll wrap up with a powerful vision for a life where you're truly cherished. As the years carve their stories into our hearts, we carry a lifetime of love for our children, a love that's weathered sleepless nights, countless sacrifices, and moments of unspoken pride. But as we've explored today, love doesn't mean staying where your presence is overlooked, where your warmth is met with silence, or where your worth is taken for granted. Choosing to step back from visits that leave you feeling disrespected isn't about losing family, it's about finding yourself. It's about planting your heart in places where it blooms, where your laughter is heard, your stories cherished, and your presence celebrated. Imagine waking tomorrow with a lightness in your step, knowing you've chosen to honor your own dignity. Picture a life where your time is spent with people who see you not just as a parent or grandparent, but as a person with dreams, wisdom, and a spirit that still shines. This isn't the end of love. It's a new chapter, one where you write the story with courage and grace. Your peace isn't something to beg for, it's something to claim, quietly but fiercely, because you are worth it. You always have been. Take a moment to reflect. Who makes you feel truly seen, and where might you need to step back to rediscover that feeling? You don't need to make grand gestures or burn bridges. Sometimes it's a gentle pause, a single boundary, a quiet choice to say, "My heart deserves more." That choice is your strength, your legacy, a reminder that in these precious years, you are not here to be tolerated. You are here to be loved. At Senior Wellness Advice, we're here to walk with you, sharing stories that remind you your worth is never up for debate. So, if this video stirred something in you, a memory, a resolve, or a quiet hope, please share it in the comments below. Tell us what's one step you'll take to choose yourself, and where are you watching from? Your words might light the way for someone else feeling unseen. If this message touched your heart, pass it along to someone who needs it, a friend, a parent, a loved one who deserves to know their value. One share can spark a ripple of courage, and for more gentle wisdom to live these years with joy and strength, tap that subscribe button and join our community. Let's keep choosing love, dignity, and peace, one day at a time. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you in the next video.